Welcome. In the last two lessons, we learned the side, 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 angle, side, angle, and the angle, angle, side theorems for congruent triangles. And most of the time, they gave you which one you were looking for, and you just had to find the correct two triangles that were congruent. In this lesson, we're going to be using all three, side, 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 angle, side angle, and angle, angle, side, to see if two triangles are congruent, and you have to determine which one it is that proves they're congruent, or say that there isn't enough information, we can't prove they're congruent. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start somewhere on one of the markings. So I'm going to start with the single tick mark side here. Now that's a side, so I'm going to write an S. Then I'm going to start walking around the triangle, and I'm going to try to go to the closest next marking. This would be a long ways to go over here to this one. So I'm going to go to this second tick mark. That's this one right here, which is another side. And again, I'm going to come around this way, and I'm going to find a side. So that's the next thing. So S, so far we're looking good. And then I'm going to go to an angle. And so we have an angle. So I have a side, side, angle. Now, if you look up here, there is no side, side, angle. There's an angle, angle, side. There's an angle, side, angle where the side is in between the two angles, or there's two sides with an angle in between. This one does not prove congruency. So if you don't find one of these up here, then you would not have congruent triangles. Now, you might actually find side, angle, angle, which is the same as angle, angle, side, just the reversed order. But two sides in an angle where the angle is not in between, that's the important thing. The angle is not in between the two sides, does not prove congruency. So these cannot be proven congruent. And this whole lesson is going to be continuing to do that. And if you'll notice, we have an angle and an angle. So again, I start with one given angle, angle. So I have an angle. Then I go to the next angle. There's no side mark, so I can't use a side. And then I go to the third angle, angle. But three angles, again, is not one of our four congruency postulates. That does not prove congruency. Those would not be congruent. And looking at the next one, sometimes the triangles share a side in common. And then you need to realize that even though the side they share in common isn't marked, it is congruent to itself. In other words, this side of the top triangle is congruent to this side of the bottom triangle. So a lot of times I'll put my own little double tick mark in there to help me remind myself that, hey, even though it's not marked, they share that side in common. So again, I have an angle, a side, and a side, an angle, a side, and a side, or a side, side, and an angle. But again, that's not one of our congruency. I have a side, I have a side, and I have an angle. Again, that is not one of our congruency postulates. So the hardest process or hardest part of this is a lot of students don't know what order to go. Do I go clockwise around the triangles? Do I go counterclockwise around the triangles? But it doesn't really matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise. In fact, you can go clockwise on one triangle and counterclockwise on the other. What matters is that you follow the order and you don't skip over anything. So again, I'm going to look for one of these three. Now, if you notice, again, I start with maybe a single tick mark. That's a side. So I'm given a side. Now, again, go towards or go in a direction that gets you to the next closest thing that's marked. Don't go around the long way. Go to the closest thing that's marked. That's an angle. And this next closest thing here is an angle. So then we have an angle. And then the very next thing we come to is a double ticked mark side. Come to a double ticked mark side. So then we have a side. Well, side, angle, side. Is that one of our congruency postulates? Yes, it is. So that one can be proven it's congruent by side, angle, side. First one we've had so far that actually was congruent. So again, All I'm going to do is I'm going to start, and I don't know why I seem to always start with sides, but I like sides, so I'm going to start with the side. Then I'm going to go to the closest next marked either side or angle. So I'm going to the next closest double marked angle, so then I have an angle. And then I go to the next closest one that's marked, which is an angle, And so I have side, angle, angle. Now, again, if I look up here, I don't see a side, angle, angle, but remember, that's this one just written in the reverse order. I could have started with the angle and went angle, angle, side. So side, angle, angle is exactly the same as angle, angle, side, and now those two triangles are congruent by this postulate right here. Again, it just takes practice. And again, don't worry so much about the order or direction that you go around the triangle. You do have to matter about the order, but don't matter so much the direction. Now here, I don't see a single side. By the way, if you notice, every single one of our postulates, you need at least one side somewhere marked. If you don't see any sides marked anywhere, right off the bat, I know it's not, you can't prove it's congruent, because there's no sides that are marked. So if you don't see any little tick marks on any of the sides right off the bat, you say, oh, no, that can't be, or we don't know it's congruent. They might be similar, but that's another lesson. And again, similar to the last two lessons, they'll give you 3 triangles and they'll ask you which 2 of them are congruent. And can you tell why they're congruent? Well, there's only sides marked, side, 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 side. So it's going to be side, side, side. We just got to figure out which one are the right 2. And if you notice, I have a double tick mark, a double tick mark, a triple, a quadruple, and a quadruple. This triangle here is the only triangle that has a single tick mark side, so that's not one of the 2 that are congruent. And when you type in the angles, remember to always do this the right or same order of letters, what I mean is the corresponding parts. So if I do, let's do X, Y, Z, keep it in alphabetical order. You don't have to, by the way, you don't have to keep it in alphabetical order. But if I do X, which is in between the double tick and the triple tick mark, double tick, triple tick mark, that's G. So they're making sure you can find the corresponding parts. Then I went to Y, which is above the double tick, or in between the double tick and the quadruple. So that's F. So then I do F and then H. Again, if you have any questions, please do bring them to class and I will help you walk through these.